Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS show with John Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome to the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Live show. We're looking today at the DraftKings 10-game main slate. We apologize for the delay today. Working through some things, but we are here. We are live, and we are ready to answer your questions, talk about the top storylines, wait for the injury news to come across our feeds, because that's really the story of the day today, is who's in, who's out. A lot of notable names coming up questionable today throughout the day. Obviously, last night we had the Anthony Davis questionable news come through in their matchup against Memphis here tonight. If he is in or out, obviously that would impact how we go about our roster construction. LaMelo Ball popped up on the injury list this afternoon, as a questionable. There's just a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. Grande, how are you feeling about things today?
I feel like there's more players that popped up on the injury report than like end of season NBA. When we get there, it's like the same. It's like the same injury report. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty nasty slate. There was obviously players injured coming into the slate, but it looks like some people on the precipice of returning. We saw Zion go through shoot around this morning, Levine go through shoot around this morning, Kevin Porter go through shoot around this morning. So it looks like we're going to get some guys back, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of injury news that we still have to sift through. They cut the 10 p.m. games again. And there are some very short-handed teams on this slate with some really popular options. And you're going to have to, and some of them not in the easiest spot. So you're going to have to decide what's good chalk and what's bad chalk today, because there is about 5 players that are getting more ownership than everyone else. And like, they're just separated from the field. So, it's a fun slate. I enjoy the slate. I think there is some really good chalk. I also think, some chalk can be faded, but all in all, pretty fun 10-game slate. I'm ready.
Yep. Happy to have you guys in there with us. Justin, Jeff, Dez, and Albert all in the chat here. We appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. We're happy to bring them up. We'll answer them for you. We'll help you guys get set with your lineups tonight. Don't be shy if you're playing on FanDuel as well. We'll help you guys out with your FanDuel lineup, some good matchups that unfortunately those on DraftKings are not able to take advantage of. That Clippers 76 game should be a pretty fun one for DFS here tonight to get some exposure in that over on FanDuel. You also have the Raptors taking on the Kings, which would have been a fun game to take part of as well on FanDuel, but DraftKings, you don't have them. Talking about some of the top matchups, talking about the point guard. I don't know if you saw the tweet today. Trae Young shaved his head.
No. Faded.
Fade?
It was like preseason. He like had in the summer he had shaved his head.
Someone said
you got senteled. You got senteled.
Senteled? No, it's too bad, because I was saying we have a narrative in play then if that ends up being the case.
Ice cube Trae.
He should have kept it. Honestly, look what happened to Derek White once he shaved the head.
True.
Right?
I mean the Derek White hair, he's way better bald.
Yeah, way better bald. Chris in here as well, playing on FanDuel. Go get that 100K, Chris. I know it's coming for you soon, man. All right, so you got Luke at 11.5. You got Trae Young. You got SGA as your top 3 priced guards on the slate. SGA is the cover of the playbook here today. I did that because Vegas has this like a 7-point spread. If they're saying that in Denver, this is going to be a within 10-point competitive game, then we're probably getting 35, 36 minutes out of SGA, in my opinion here. We got 35 in that blowout against Orlando, played 36 against Denver earlier this year and had 58 fantasy points. And we might see like predominantly Russell Westbrook out there tonight defensively on SGA, or Christian Braun, probably the one that's actually going to draw the assignment. But like either way, feel really good about SGA in his spot. Luka Doncic, we know what he is capable of. Finally popped off after a couple of down games for 71 fantasy points. And then you got Ice Trae here, 10-6 in the middle, gets that Knicks matchup. Tough draw against Boston last time. I only played 23 minutes, but we've seen him go for 68 lately as well. So we know that upside's there.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an elite tier. I'm still partial to Luka, but so is the field. So if you want leverage, SGA is obviously the play. What's up, the Prince? Happy Wednesday. I'm really in on Luca here at the top. If spending up at point guard, uh, even like non-efficient Luca lately has been pretty good. Efficient Luca is obviously elite,
Yeah.
but when the peripheral stats are flowing, he is hard to contain from a fantasy perspective. This is the most blown up picture of Luka Doncic I've ever seen
There we go.
in my life. That was good.
I don't know what just happened there. My mouse like got stuck and buttons moved around.
Really wanted to see if he had his game face on tonight. I got it. You're just checking out, see, look in his eyes, see how many fantasy points he was going to get you.
It's pretty much.
The minutes have been great, and obviously, Chicago is the fastest paced team in the league this year. League a little worse than league average defensively. So, love Luca, love SGA. Trey is third, but he does have a massive ceiling. So if you want to get to Trey, by all means, do so. The LaMelo thing, John, when we get to the next year, is a little interesting. His ankle, this is the one he had surgery on last year.
Yeah.
So, that is he. I don't know if it was in morning shoot around. I don't know if it was after morning shoot around. Whatever, but anytime you start talking about stuff that has been surgically repaired and sore and aggravated, that's not a great sign for your status of the.
I agree. Anytime you get a midday questionable, usually as well, he'll go through the pregame warmups. But Trey Mann obviously looking pretty good if he ends up being the one to start. Just quickly circling back to SGA, one of the other factors that I liked about him tonight was just the ownership. You mentioned obviously everybody's playing Luca. If you're just looking for leverage on this slate tonight, under around 5% is playing SGA. If you're playing in tournaments today and you want a guy that can go for 50, 60 fantasy points at 5%, SGA sort of has that. Update now, LaMelo Ball is a game time decision as we expected there. So, excuse me. John Morant's $9,200 though. We've talked a lot about him getting over 30 minutes has been nice to see. 31 and 33 now back-to-back games. 43 fantasy points, fall short of the double-double that time after giving us a bunch of double-doubles previously. Didn't give us any blocks and steals in that game against Brooklyn, but still 43 fantasy points at 9,300. They dropped him down $100, and we got the Lakers where they're home favorites by a point tonight. So competitive game. Could see just another ceiling performance. Love the 22 shots that we got out of him as well. That's a season high for him. So just kind of onward and upward if he's going to be playing these kind of minutes at this price tag.
Yeah, and something we've been talking about when we get to Chris Paul and the Spurs, Memphis also has an interim coach tonight. So we don't know, I feel like sometimes you see interim coaches coaching for their lives, right? Hey, I can be a head coach in this league. Sure. I'm going to play all my guys and win. So maybe we even see Ja get up to 35 minutes or so, just with Taylor Jenkins away with a personal matter. So just a little tidbit there for on the Ja / Memphis front in general.
Sure. Again, it's kind of a loaded overall tier. I mean, again, Brunson, I think against Atlanta is in a really great spot. Getting some ceiling games out of him the last two, 47 and 50 fantasy points, playing 42 in 31 minutes. We always know that there's a ceiling for him to play a full 48 when Tibbs is your coach here.
Yes.
And if this is a game where you can take advantage of that matchup against Atlanta, 8,700, great. And then Kate Cunningham. I mean, this should be a spot where he just attacks the rim at will, right? Taj Gibson, Grant Williams setting up to be the bigs tonight for
literally that's
Charlotte.
And Musa. I think Musa still playing, right? Musa's still on the team.
So this should be a spot where I would like to see Kate Cunningham just go at the rim constantly. Let's get a season high in free throw attempts going here, right? Let's just attack either way. Gave you 50 last time out on kind of an average shooting night, gave you the triple double. We've seen him have high scoring games this year. We've seen him fill the stat sheet. I'm liking this Cade spot here tonight at 85.
Yeah, man. I think Detroit is one of the better teams on the board, and I never thought I'd say that about the Detroit Pistons, but Charlotte's dead last in defensive rating this year. Dead last, 30th. So I am really in on Cade, and I'm also really in on their other guard on their roster. So if you can't afford Cade, there's another Piston that I would happily play in the guard spot.
Sure. We'll talk about Jaden Ivey here in a minute. Halliburton's 8K. I don't really understand the price point on that. He's been really good, obviously, the last couple of games. Again, from even an ownership perspective, like no one's really playing him, and I don't think we're seeing a lot of the mid-tier guys get ownership tonight because everybody's able to just spend all the way down, and then spend all the way up, and that's just leaving the mid-tier with like 5 to 10% rostership across the board for the most part. Albert playing on FanDuel asked our thoughts on Fox. It's a great spot against Toronto. If you wanted to go there, again, I think I might play Maxey over Fox tonight if I had to pick one. Maxey versus the Clippers over Fox versus the Raptors, but I don't mind getting to him. Again, the Raptors beat the Kings the last time they played. Now that was in Toronto, but I'm good either way, honestly, in that situation there. But whether it's Halliburton here, Van Vliet, Garland, like what are your thoughts when we hit this mid-tier range?
Yeah, I mean, Van Vliet's definitely third of the three you mentioned, but Halliburton is definitely attractive at 8K because, again, we've said it all year. He's a $9,500 player when he's making shots, so perfectly fine getting to Halliburton, like Garland and the role he's on. Jalen Suggs is an interesting play because he's been so good without Paolo.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that Dallas game happened where they just got blitzed and torched and nobody played after, their first shift in the second half. But he's been great without Paolo.
Are you surprised that the Pacers are only 5-point home favorites tonight?
No, they have not been. No, because they just haven't been that good this year.
It's the third straight road game for the Magic. They've gotten blown out in back-to-back games. I mean, Indiana is getting, they don't have Aaron Nesmith. They don't have backup centers. They got Miles Turner back last game, though. Like, I don't know. Something seems suspicious in that situation to me.
Well, they're like, Halliburton has the yips again. So their best player is like afraid to shoot again. So, plus he's going to be guarded by Jalen Suggs, which is not a fun.
Sure.
Thing, so, I mean, I guess there's something to it, but either way, all of it favors Orlando other than it just them being wrong and it's a 20-point game again. I think that's like the baked in Orlando should still be good defensively even without Paolo and WCJ.
And Wendell Carter, yeah. I just wonder if Goga's even going to be able to handle Turner on the perimeter. Yeah. That just like forces Mo Wagner into the game or something like that, or more minutes for John Isaac,
No, never more.
Well, we can pray. So I definitely like just Suggs on the other side, though, because if this game is going to be a 5-point game, then you're going to get, again, he played 35 in that blowout, but OKC, really great defensive team. He still had 37 fantasy points there. Like, we're going to get sort of competitive games here. We might get closer to the 40-plus fantasy points from Jalen Suggs here tonight.
Yep, agreed.
Then we have Derek White, who's just below him, 44 fantasy points last time out. Tonight's going to be pretty interesting. Warriors are allowing the fewest 3-pointers per game to their opponent. So
doesn't matter.
What gives
the
team that shoots the most 3-pointers in the NBA and makes the most 3-pointers in the NBA per game, or the team that allows the fewest 3-pointers per game?
Missoula knows that and is just going to prove a point that his Missoula ball has no limitations. They're going to break the 3-point record tonight.
And just go out there and
and they're not going to even take it two.
Just end it.
Missoula is going to go on the court and physically remove players if they shoot twos tonight.
Just
Amos Quaid taking threes tonight.
Make sure Golden State leaves this game in the middle of the pack. 3-pointers allowed. So Dwayne, listen, Stars and Scrub is really a popular way to go tonight if you look at the ownership. And we'll go over it, but guys like Najee Marshall, Peyton Watson, Neemias Queta. Assuming Kate is the one starting, we don't know a Celtics starting lineup yet, but like those guys are all getting 40 plus, 35 plus % rostership tonight. Russell Westbrook's right around that range as well, 30, 35%. So because 50% of the field is spending down on 2 to 3 guys for the most part, it just allows you to double build with 2 studs and kind of go in that direction. So I agree. There's certainly some trap spots on this slate, and we'll talk about those as well. But Stars and Scrubs seems the way to go. I was tinkering around with the lineup, and I made a Luka Jokic lineup. I got there. And I was sitting there like, honestly, not bad.
Not bad,
Like, right. So that's just the way this slate is. That's why I wrote up in the playbook that this is likely going to be one of those games you're like, man, I scored 330 points in min cash today. Like, that's what it feels like. That's the path that we're on. You'll see a 400 point takedown probably tonight, I think, assuming all the value chalk ends up hitting tonight. So you got Derek White there with Levine going through shoot around, probably downgrades all the Chicago guys to you, or no?
Yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Agreed. I do like Tyler Hero at $6,600. Again, I'm always in on Hero for tournaments. He's just super consistent. Will likely lead the team in shots. Will give you 24 plus 4 plus basically on a night to night basis for Miami. Anybody else in this mid range?
Do you want to talk about Ivy, or do you want to talk about him at shooting guard?
Talk about a shooting guard. We can go down to Chris Paul if you want.
Yeah, go to Chris Paul. He's good.
He's good.
Dude, the minutes have been great. The production's been great. 17 potential assists per game suggests that, everything that you're seeing is real. It's not like the plain lady that, this mother effer is not real. I mean, this is real.
Yeah. I showed you. I played the Chris Paul ladder again today because if he converts on 14 of those 17, he basically hits the over and basically everything in assists by itself. Right? So
he's a good rebounder. He's a good rebounding guard.
Always been a sneaky good rebounder.
What are we missing here? Their second best rebounder in Jeremy Sohan. That is now out of the lineup, and so if they do go with the route where Stephon Castle is your starter, that bodes well for Chris Paul, because that's Wemby and friends on the glass, and friends is going to start with Chris Paul. So love him at 5,900, and I think that's a great pivot away from someone like Russell Westbrook. I'm not saying Russell Westbrook's a bad play, because I think Russell Westbrook is obviously what he is, right? He's a 5K starting point guard that is a really good fantasy point per minute player and always has been. You just need him to be efficient scoring. But you don't even, I guess I shouldn't even say that. You don't even need him to be efficient scoring, and he can get you there because,
I would say the one thing we have to take into account, Russell Westbrook, and, people are like, oh, Westbrook's starting. There's, and they just think of, old Russell Westbrook. And we see James Harden right now. Oh, James Harden starting a team by himself, and he's going triple doubles, double doubles. Westbrook, Nikola Jokic is still there going for 20, 17, and 14. So those double-digit assists and rebound games from Russell Westbrook seem tougher to project when he's, if Jokic was out, I would say sure. Westbrook's gonna go out there and he'll fill the stat sheet because that's what he likes to do. He likes to pad his own numbers, but it's very difficult to do when the ultimate stat padder, as it was Kendrick Perkins called him. Nikola Jokic was out there just padding stats, grabbing all these assists and rebounds. So I like Westbrook because, again, 5K is obviously too cheap. He doesn't need to go triple double to pay that off. He's shown that this year. He can give you the 5.65 number and give you 24 fantasy points at 5K, and that's being a bad shooter. So I understand why people are getting there. It won't take much for him to pay it off. But I don't think we're also looking at, we shouldn't be expecting the old version of Russell Westbrook just because he's starting now.
Yeah, he got 40 last game in a game against Toronto that had 240 implied, 240 points.
Yeah.
The OKC allowed 86 points last game, and they're far and away. So they rank first with a 93.8 defensive rating, John. Golden State is second at 102. They are 9 points better in terms of defensive rating than who's in second. That's how good OKC's been. And we talked about it. They held Denver to 86 points in the first game, and Jokic still went for a 60-point triple-double. So if you contextualize that and say oh, that might happen again, not everyone's going to have a very good game if Jokic is doing that again and they score less than 100 points. It's probably not going to be many good games on Denver. And to James's point, I don't think it's too many because Denver is so cheap and they're going to just play these dudes big minutes. But you are running into the best team in the NBA defensively.
I think if you're going to play that, we'll talk about shooting guard here in a second. I think you need Strother in that lineup. I think
instead of Christian Brown,
probably just because you've got to differentiate yourself from sort of the field here in that sense a little bit. I think it'll help you in tournaments to have that leverage, because you're also then protecting yourself, I think, in a blowout situation where now again, Vegas doesn't project this to be a blowout. They're in Denver. Denver generally plays pretty well at home. It's a 7.5 or something like that point spread. But if this game does get out of hand, Strother probably has a better chance of being on the floor for some of those late minutes, and that can help you, I think, put you over. So you will talk about shooting guard. You can agree or disagree when we get there, but it's kind of my thoughts on Julian Strother today. Amen Thompson, a guy that we are trying to figure out why the minutes, where the minutes, and are the minutes going to continue? Because the numbers we're seeing now are what we saw pretty consistently last year when he was getting this type of run. Can you count on 33 to 34 minutes tonight out of him?
I think that you can if Dylan Brooks does not play.
Okay.
Because I think he'll start. It would be him or Eason. But Eason's also questionable. Eason and Dylan Brooks both questionable with an illness. So I think if one of them are out, you see Amen Thompson starting. Like if Dylan Brooks is out. But if Eason's out, I would say Amen Thompson probably absorbs those Tari Eason minutes too. And make a case for him to get to, especially not knowing what San Antonio is going to do. If they go small, is there a need for Jabari Smith on the floor anymore, or Şengün? One of those guys seemingly are getting iced every game. Like,
what do you consider small? Like Zach Collins and Wemby, or
I'd assume they go Castle or they go Keldon. That would be the fifth starter. That would be my assumption.
Sure. So, okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm intrigued by the minutes, right? It was hard to, you saw against the Warriors, like, ooh, played 34 minutes, but you also saw like the bench play a huge game in that one, right? And then he did it again. So now you're like, oh, all right, we got back-to-back games. What do we think? What is this? Ja's a game time decision per coach? Ja?
No. This is not Ja. That is LaMelo. Charles Lee is the Hornets head coach.
I was like, Ja's a game time decision. All right, well, good to see you on ball because we'll get to Trey Mann here right now. Trey Mann, 5,200 paid purchase, 5,200. Obviously, everybody's playing Russell Westbrook, so nobody's playing these guys. But do you think if Ball gets ruled out and Mann is in the starting lineup, that people will pivot off of Westbrook to play Trey Mann?
Maybe it's a really good spot against Detroit, and especially if Trey Mann's starting. Like if Trey Mann were to start, then oh boy, I do think that ownership would be closer because you have shooting guard eligibility for Trey Mann.
DeAndre Hunter ruled out tonight.
Is Roddy also going to be out because he was downgraded?
Roddy is available to play.
Okay, because I saw Roddy got downgraded midday. Atlanta would have been in deep waters tonight if they didn't have like Roddy and Hunter, because then they would just have like Richache on the wing. That'd be like their only wing. So.
Yeah. And Magic starting lineup, same lineup it was the other day. Goga at center, De Silva at small forward. Franz playing the 4 today. Then Pritchard's here again. He's going to come off the bench. He's going to play 25 to 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Going to use his offense. Going to take shots. If you want to get him in your lineup, we're beyond telling you not to play him, so that's fine. Any other value point guards here?
Nope.
Okay, shooting guard. Brandon Ingram is your top priced shooting guard today. They did have Zion go through shoot around, so they may have Zion back, and maybe that helps them. I don't know how much. I mean, Cleveland's a wagon, so difficult to project. Booker Mitchell, I like Kyrie Irving a lot tonight at $8,200. If you're not playing Luka, Kyrie feels like the guy to put into your lineup. That's your decision. And hope that he has his 50 fantasy point game. If LaMelo's out, what does that now change for your thoughts on Brandon Miller?
Oh boy.
Right?
I'm gonna have way too much Brandon Miller in that case. And I'm gonna live with it because he is a high usage scorer. I mean, he could score at every level. So I would have a lot of Brandon Miller. And we saw the 31 minutes. Like, first game back, 31 minutes. Second game, only played 21 because they took the starters out. I mean,
Yeah.
he's full. That's full run. So I would be highly intrigued by Miller because it's just like Charlotte's so shorthanded. They're getting not a lot from Miles Bridges.
Yeah, that's more
just
surprising, right? That dude got paid and he's just like not playing.
yeah,
well.
he's been terrible. They're shorthanded at the front court. We don't know if they're gonna like Trey Mann would start. He might even just come off the bench just because like
I go play Seth at the one.
yeah. So like that would be just Brandon Miller's kingdom, right? So
They could play Micic. Did you see the reports on him? He like wants to go back to Europe because he's not
he's not
playing.
Yeah, DMP every night.
Yeah.
He looked good in the Olympics. I don't know why. I don't know
what last year when he was playing for them, and then they're DNPing him. So I guess there's a report he's talked to his agent. There's teams over in the EuroLeague that want him, and he's trying to figure out a way to get out. So maybe tonight's a night to showcase some.
No, they don't need a showcase. He's just playing in the Olympics.
I understand, but it wouldn't be the first time a guy's been DNPing all season in the starting lineup just because someone's been ruled out. So.
Sure.
All right, so we got that mid-tier guys. You want to talk Jaden Ivey, so have your floor.
Yeah, I mean this has obviously been. There's like I think he's in the mix for most improved player, especially after what we've seen from him. I think the best thing we've seen is the minutes. The second best is the scoring has been consistent. Almost 20 a game. The peripherals have been really solid. Almost a 28% usage rate this year, John, which is impressive. I mean, that right behind Cade. Cade's over 30. Jaden Ivey's at 28. He's obviously, like I mentioned, a cheaper version of Cade with a little better eligibility. Cade obviously is Jaden Ivey on steroids because he just came off a triple-double, and he's obviously the leader of the team. But if you can't get to Cade, like, I like the Ivy eligibility. He's a little less rostered than Cade. Neither of them are getting like massive ownership, but I mentioned it. We were talking about Cade. Charlotte's the worst defensive team in basketball. So whoever is in place of LaMelo Ball, that's not going to improve. So I love Jaden Ivey at 61. I want exposure to Detroit. We kind of lost our center exposure with some of the moves that happened today, and I know you're like. When we get there, we'll talk about how low a certain center is for Detroit.
I almost want to play him more now.
I know, but like, I want exposure to this team, and if I can't get to Cade, I'm just finding myself getting to Ivy at a easier position because point guard's loaded. I don't feel the same about shooting guard, but comfortably getting to Ivy here at 61.
Okay. If AD gets ruled out, Hachimura gets ruled out, Reeves probably comes far more interesting at 6,100, right?
Dude, he's popular tonight.
Yeah.
And there's another Ivy pivot or reason I'm pivoting to Ivy too, because there's a lot of factors that I think people are getting to Austin Reeves. I get it, but I know that Jaden Ivey is, regardless of who's in and who's out, like 35 minutes, second option on the offense, sometimes first option. Austin Reeves needs a lot to break his way for it to be him as like first or second option. AD went through shoot around, so like things are trending well for AD. Ron's there, Russell's there. Hachimura has the weirdest random downgrade back to upgrade. I don't know if you saw that. He was doubtful, then he went back. He's questionable now.
Yeah, it was
so
illness or whatever.
Yeah, so now I would rather play Ivy for lower ownership, but yeah, if things break for Reeves and people are out, then
because Reeves has been good with everybody healthy anyway.
He has,
so like there's just like I think just general interest in that game, and he just fits sort of some price points probably because we talk about it. Everybody's spending down, and everybody's spending up, and then you've seen some lineups where you're like, all right, I have $6,100 left. Where do I go? And it's like, because all my value today are forwards, right? And all your spend ups are like guards, so like centers. So you're just finding Reeves in the mid tier there. Any interest in like Daniels, Hawkins if he plays today, Wiggins, Bridges? Like thoughts on this, like 6K, 5K range?
I mean, I'm wondering what the Pelicans are going to do if Alvarado doesn't play and Hawkins don't play. I mean, they might just go non-traditional point guard and just use like Ingram, Zion to bring the ball up the whole game. mean, Hawkins would be in play if he's starting. I would prefer it if there was no Zion, but obviously he's going to shoot a lot regardless. Daniels is fine, but having to guard Jalen Brunson with Jalen Brunson foul baiting all the time, that's not a good recipe for Dyson Daniels. Probably the next name I'd get to is Ben Mathurin, who's going to start with Neesmith out. It's going to play 30 minutes. Going to probably get you 30 plus fantasy points at 5,300. So Mathurin's probably the next guy I'd get to. Christian Brown is pretty safe at 53. As we talked about it earlier. So yeah, I mean, this is a nice little tier here in the 5K range.
Yeah, you're gonna get all your minutes. You're gonna get some rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals from Christian Brown. He's been pretty good. If he would just like shoot more threes,
yeah,
there'd be, and because he's hitting the ones he takes, right? Like if he would just take 3 more threes, like he'd be really interesting. Champagny season high 21 points in that last game, 38 minutes. Probably no surprise that he played all those minutes in that game, right? So, definitely going to have some interest at $4,500 there. Said Io's playing minutes off their bench anyways, but obviously Levine back kills at least a little bit of the upside there. We have McBride off the bench at 43. Boston get knocked down with Zion back or no? Is that a Hawkins thing, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a Hawkins thing. It's also an Alvarado thing. It's a Zion. I mean, they are so depleted. So if 2 of those 3 are out, Brandon Boston, right? If 2 of the 3 are out, then yeah, Brandon Boston's probably going to start and play a boatload of minutes again because they just don't have any other options.
Right. Anybody else down here? I mentioned Strother. Yep. He's 37. Again, he played 26 minutes in that game against Toronto. There's going to be minutes for him to play tonight. 13, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2 steals and 4 straight games here. Again, I think that there is a leverage to this play tonight. Everybody's playing Watson. $3,700. If things break bad in this game, maybe he gets some extra run and blowouts with everybody off the floor. Otherwise, we know he can be a bucket. And if he just gets hot and they're in a scoring race now with OKC tonight, like they may just leave him on the floor. There
is no telling if Peyton Watson is going to stay out of foul trouble in this game. He is a great defender who gets in a lot of foul trouble. And Michael Porter, let's not forget, is a 6'10" small forward. So you don't need a power forward.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You slide over MPJ and Strother's playing the 3 or Braun's playing the 3 and Strother's playing the 2. And you're getting Strother at 3-4% tonight. Yep. So I think in tournaments, Julian Strother is a pretty interesting dart throw. Again, I'm not suggesting build him in your core lineup. But if you're playing a single injury and you want to take that risk, sure. But he just played 26 minutes in a competitive game. I think there's a legitimate floor of 24 to 26 minutes just baseline here, which should be good enough if he hits his threes tonight. So I like Strother. If they do something crazy, start Branham or Castle, you could give a look there for San Antonio as well.
Sam Merrill, I'd throw into that. If we get the LeVert news, Sam Merrill played 27 minutes off the bench.
Yeah.
Is playing 20 a night. Yeah, he's playing 20 a night, back-to-back games. Dude, if he makes shots, he is a flamethrower. He can light it up quick. So, $3,600. If there's I think it's Karis LeVert contingent. I know they already ruled out Dean Wade.
Yeah.
So there are minutes to be had, and he's in the rotation. But if there's no LeVert, I mean, again, we just saw it. There's upper 20s minutes for him available. Then him and Strother, outside of the positional eligibility, would look really similar to each other.
Do we get any Garrison Matthews interest here now? 26 minutes last time out against Boston. Obviously, that was a blowout.
I would just probably find a couple hundred.
We had the ceiling game, 30 minutes, 13 from 3. But no Hunter, right? So
Hunter.
There's something there. Small forward again, Tatum and LeBron. We assume we're going double bigs for Boston tonight, but we don't know. Joe Mazzulla is a psycho. Could start no centers. Tatum might start at the 5 tonight. I don't know. But 10-2, there's obviously a whole bunch of narratives around this game in general. Tatum's point projection tonight is at 30.5 points as well. So they're projecting a big scoring night out of Tatum. And we know that Tatum is going to give you some rebounds. You also mentioned his assist opportunities in some of these games. And sure enough, You had the over Tatum 5.5 assists, I think it was, in your write-up the other day. You had 9. That could certainly continue here tonight. You know you're going to get rebounds. You know, the Steve Kerr narrative with the Olympics and they're home. But not only that, I think is interesting. They're home, and yet the point spread's only 6.
Yes.
Boston has basically been a double-digit point favorite against everybody, except I think it was the Pacers when they were on the road that one time. They're home versus a Warriors team that has a lot of great metrics, but they've played one of the easier schedules in the NBA. So what's real, what's not? Yeah, I don't know, man. This feels pretty good. I'm a homer. I'm a Celtics fan, but I also bet the -6 today. So, you know, I think this
6-1, second best defensive rating in basketball, all against bad teams.
All against bad. It is. Look at their schedule.
Nope, not disputing it. They had some scored like 140 points in 2 straight games to start the year, playing 12 guys. I think the ownership is being carried here by the. I understand Jaylen Brown's not playing, and I understand he's been great. I do think there's a narrative carrying this, like the Olympic narrative is carrying the ownership.
Sure.
He's 17% is like a lot of ownership for a 10-2 Tatum. I haven't feel like he's been 17% really other than last slate against Atlanta. So yeah, I think Tatum's an elite play if you end up there. Same thing with LeBron. I mean, you can talk narratives with LeBron as well. So I think Tatum and LeBron are both excellent plays. And if Anthony Davis is hindered at all, I mean, LeBron is going to put the team on his back. And
I did an underdog battle royal draft today where people were very afraid of the Anthony Davis not playing thing. I had the 4th pick, 6 teams, 4th pick. Anthony Davis fell to me to 4. I took him, and then on the swing around, I took LeBron. So not bad. Either they both play, and I have AD and LeBron who have gone for 50 and 60 fantasy points together now in back-to-back games, or AD gets ruled out. I just get whatever the automatic replacement is, but then I get LeBron James by himself against Memphis here, equally as strong of a play. So obviously I'm hopeful both will play. I think they'll both be good, but if they're out, where does LeBron rank you for overall spend ups tonight if Anthony Davis is ruled out, given his price tag as well?
Probably still have Luka 1, but LeBron might be 2.
Okay.
I'm like basically not moving off Luka unless like Luka came out and said like I'm not shooting tonight. I don't feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I might still play Luka because I would think he's lying, but probably. I mean, per dollar, there's an argument he's the best spend up on the board.
Sure, I agree. I mean, again, we've gotten 52 and 55 out of him with Anthony Davis, so there's potential for takeover. We had a 70 fantasy point game already with him in Sacramento, so the upside is there.
I'm reading a quote from Missoula.
Okay.
About Jaylen Brown's hip.
Okay.
And they asked him about it, and Joe Missoula said he doesn't really know how bad it is because they both mumble, and he didn't really understand what Jaylen Brown said. Which is so funny.
He's the best.
That is such a funny response to. He said I couldn't understand him. Literally talking to like one of his star players, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know, I couldn't understand him." That is absolutely.
Missoula is literally the best.
Yeah.
And when you win an NBA championship, you can do whatever you want. You can be whatever you want. Pop's like that, right? Pop does the weird interviews and like all that stuff. And people are like, he's got the rings, his coach Hall of Famers, whatever. He's gonna do what he does. Yep. All right, where are you at Franz Wagner tonight? I think it's an interesting spot here at 7,700. The price is but I don't mind the Pacers matchup for him.
Don't mind the Pacers matchup. It's a good one. So, Franz has kind of like the OKC game was disappointing, but we've now seen it every game OKC plays. They just don't let people score against them. Dallas, he was smashing and they got blown out. So if you want to get to him, he's going to lead them in usage. And if he's not, he's second. But they have 2 starters down. Both those starters are good players. And Franz scored 20 points per game last year. They need him to be that and more. So perfectly fine getting to Franz.
Sure. Really like Jalen Williams, Butler. Really, this tier's got a lot of good options. Again, we talked Miller already. Josh Hart, we talked about, could be like the sneaky 14 rebound game out of him, where everybody's focused on the rest of this team.
Everyone's playing OG. Everyone's playing OG tonight. We already see the writing's on the wall. The writing is on the wall.
Yeah.
It's on the wall. We know what's going to happen. Josh Hart was 40, 30, whatever percent owned. He's 13% tonight. OG's getting all the ownership. So you already know what's going down there.
Yep. Agreed. Are you doing any Golden State guys?
No.
Okay.
Oh, no. They're healthy? No. Maybe Draymond. Maybe I'd feel okay about Draymond just because he's been good lately, but nothing here at small forward.
Okay. We talked about Matherin and Braun already. You mentioned OG, the chalk at 5K. Champagny, Eamon Thompson. Anything different down here for you at small forward? Obviously, Najee Marshall's way down here.
Yeah, 3,400. Just get to Najee Marshall. We just had the question from IC3U. It is Najee Marshall. He is the highest rostered player of the slate. And I get that Aaron Wiggins has been really good. Don't know if he's going to start. Nobody knows who's going to start. It's always between Case and Wallace and Caruso and Wiggins, right? They just back it. We don't know. But I am very much in on Najee Marshall. We're talking about Najee Marshall on the show. As soon as we get off the show, PJ Washington ruled out.
Yeah.
As soon as I wake up today, Derek Lively downgraded to doubtful. Like,
that's just the way it happens.
Maxi Kleba out. Like, there's just no scenario when you look at Dallas tonight that they're just not playing Najee Marshall big minutes. He played all the second half minutes he could handle last time out. They're down Washington, Kleba, and all but likely Derek Lively in the front court. That means Gafford, Marshall, Prosper, and Dwight Powell is your front court, right? Dwight Powell is really just not going to give you more than a handful of minutes. So, yeah, I think Najee Marshall, deservedly so, is the chalkiest player of the slate because he is a good fantasy point per minute guy. He's very good rebounder. He's a very good passer, and he is pretty good offensively. Like when he goes to the basket now. Well, 9 shots might be the ceiling when he's playing with Luka and Kyrie. But
I think there's potential for this to blow up, right?
He's 34.
I know. Listen, I played Isaac Okoro the other day, and he got me 12 fantasy points. So
he's in the and the Bulls are number 1 pace team in the This is just a scenario where your point about Peyton Watson earlier, they don't really have this guy. Are they going to extend Spencer Dinwiddie and go 3 guards tonight? I mean,
I agree.
Where I'm agreement with the Watson, where you can get away with that. There's foul trouble looming. There's Strother looming. I don't feel the same about Najee Marshall. It's just kind of a plug and play for me.
I think he could be on the floor for tonight and just not do a lot. It wouldn't shock me if he gave you this exact stat line over 34 minutes tonight. Right?
You'd be happy with it though. He's 3,400.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's 7. You're at 7x.
You're right. No, you're right. Just seems like there's a low floor there. Rolling in here on the Tatum Kerr revenge narrative. Most time revenge narratives don't always play through, but I bet it. So I took the over 9.5 first quarter points. No,
the first nuke the first quarter point, Jason Tatum. I mean, 12 minutes. And if you don't want to do first quarter, just do third quarter.
My lone worry was that they allowed the fewest 3-pointers, and Tatum's going to go out there just jacking up a bunch of threes.
Yeah, but he's taking 30 shots tonight.
Probably true. All right. Was there anybody else down here?
Doesn't need to be. Doesn't need to be.
Okay. Power forward we go then.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about the top 2 guys already. We got Kevin Durant at 88, who's gone for 30 actual scoring in 3 of the last 5. Jalen Johnson, $8,700, filling out the stat sheet. Maybe going to give us a triple-double this year. There's a good chance. We'll get a triple-double out of Jalen Johnson at some point this year. I really like Siakam as well at $7,600.
Yeah, I think all those guys are going to be low-owned and have massive ceilings.
Yep. No arguments here. I don't know who's going to guard Siakam. I guess it's Franz Wagner, but if it's De Silva, good luck.
Good luck, Rook.
Good luck. Mid-tier options, again, it kind of falls off pretty quickly. Anybody for you that you're looking to get to? I mean, we know where the value is on this one, and everybody's just playing Peyton Watson. Is there another power forward that you'd play?
I mean, I do kind of like Draymond. wasn't kidding when I said like that would probably be the one I would get to. He's been very good. So Draymond, you have Keldon Johnson, who has a chance to enter the starting lineup, and even if he doesn't, he just flashed 40 fantasy point upside 2 games ago with no Sohan tonight. Like,
Sure.
30 plus minutes isn't on the table. We didn't really talk OG, but he is small forward, power forward, getting a ton of ownership. And this is obviously recency bias. Like, there's no other reason that OG Anunoby is the percentage that he is without recency bias attached, because he had no game greater than 5x previously.
Yeah.
His first 4 games, he reached 5x as a ceiling. And obviously we knew he was better than that, but and it's the matchup is baked in obviously here, because the matchup are super elite, but there's just never you never know if it's going to be OG or Mikal Bridges or like Josh Hart on a night-to-night basis. Like, what Brunson is going to get his 20. Yeah, Brunson's going to probably get 25, and then like everything else is divvied up between these 3 plus Miles McBride, and that's like your whole offense. So, I'm not as bullish as the field. I shouldn't say that out loud, because last time we
have a good history of jinxing foot and mouth here for sure.
With OG specifically, last 2 slates have not gone in our favor.
Well, I said it about LeBron, and he went off and had 50 back-to-back games. So
sure.
I wrote Obi Toppin up today in the playbook.
He's interesting with the minutes with Isaiah Jackson out.
No James Wiseman, no Aaron Nesmith as well.
Yep.
He played 24 minutes in that game against Dallas. That could be a floor for him. And I mean, I don't anticipate Miles Turner getting in foul trouble, but it wouldn't be the first time that Miles Turner has found himself in foul trouble in the game. So Obi Toppin's certainly interesting. And if Orlando decides to go, I mean, Turner can play a smaller game too, but like if Orlando takes Goga off the floor and just plays a smaller lineup, like Obi Toppin fits that type of play a little bit more. So at 4,500, I think he's interesting. And then Grant Williams, I mean, he played 2 games of 30 plus against Boston, right? Now there's, they had the whole revenge game. There were some blowouts in there. But like, what's stopping Charlotte from just playing Grant Williams tonight over Taj Gibson and spread the floor out and get Jalen Duran off the floor or something?
If he's starting, I believe that's what they'll do.
Right?
If he's starting, then Taj might not play tonight.
Right. So I think Grant could be interesting. Again, we've seen him have nights, right, where he goes and puts up kind of big numbers very randomly, but he'll give you like 17, 8, a couple of assists and like a steal or 2, and you're like, oh, there it is. So you got that at $4,500. How do we do Atlanta now? Is it Roddy? Is it Nance? Probably not Nance, right?
Yeah.
So
it's Roddy. I think if Roddy was out, they probably have to play Nance at like some of the backup 4. I don't think there's anything really.
Did you play Roddy at 45? He was small forward only, so we didn't really touch him.
No. Because in every scenario, I'm just playing Najee Marshall over him. The only person other that I would just Peyton Watson is obviously the talking point of the day.
I would say no Tristan Da Silva, 34 minutes, Oscar.
Yeah, the Da Silva thing is interesting as a pivot for sure. He was their first round pick. He is a super talented kid. I think that was a really nice pick for Orlando. I say that a lot about Orlando. I'm very.
They drafted well.
They have drafted well. I think he's a nice pivot because again, Peyton Watson is a talented player, an elite defender. He's an elite defender.
Great FanDuel play today. I think it's 39 on FanDuel.
Great FanDuel. Yeah, I'm playing him on FanDuel as well. Great FanDuel play. Just is one of those dudes who gets in foul trouble. I mean, even in the Toronto game, Aaron Gordon goes out. He gets immediately thrust into big minutes, 5 fouls. That is Peyton Watson when he gets extended. I mean, and just like at different points in the game, Peyton Watson might be guarding SGA. He might be guarding Jalen Williams or Chet. All 3 of which can put him in a blender very fast. Yeah. So that's why your Strawther point was like one of my favorite things that you mentioned on the show, because Peyton Watson is him and Najee Marshall are 44%, right? Mm-hmm. Or 44%.
Best way to win a tournament is not have the 44% guy that fouls out. You know?
Like, he could get there in 20 minutes, But if he's playing 20 minutes and Julian Strother goes for Julian Strother plays 30 minutes, well, I like my chances with Strother as the pivot better. So
yeah, well, that's my thing too. Like, it's not like we're hoping Strother gets minutes. Like, we feel pretty good he's playing 24 to 26.
Easy.
And he could hit 6 threes in that time frame and beat Watson point wise, right? So, yeah, he's 34. Center, we still don't have a Celtics lineup. We'll see if Neemias Queta is in or out of that lineup or not. He's 34, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
32. Even cheaper.
32.
So there's plenty of value. Center's kind of loaded. Andrew says he built our lineup. He's got Durant, Luka, Jokic, and Ivy in there.
Heck yeah.
Not bad. Again, the Joker, man, if you can get him in your lineup, like, go get him. 72 fantasy points last time out. He has an 80 fantasy point game. Smoke him if you got him. And there's plenty of value to get there if you want to get the Jokic. I feel that way, honestly, about the top three guys, Davis and Wembanyama. Go for it. If you're over on FanDuel, you can go get Sabonis. He had a 20 rebound triple-double against the Raptors the last time they played. You can do that if you want over on FanDuel. So spending up for any of these guys works. Vucevic and Towns, though, also in really great spots. Vucevic is super interesting. Not only has he been really, really good, you just look at the Dallas back front court now, right? It's Gafford and what's after Gafford, and how many times has Gafford, right? How many times has Gafford gotten into foul trouble, right? Like, I think Nikola Vucevic's in a really great spot here.
He is in a great. I mean, he's been amazing. Like, with or without Zach LaVine, he's been amazing. And I think, like, where he's really obviously been great is he's making all of his threes. That's all we've wanted. As a Bulls fan, all I've wanted is Nikola Vucevic to not be a 28% three-point shooter. Mm-hmm. And here we are. We've arrived at an unsustainable number at 48%. Not sustainable.
Maybe. Maybe drops down a little bit.
Yeah, but like,
Al Horford learned how to be a 40% three-point shooter.
Sure. So. If he's shooting 40% from three over the year, he is going to probably be an all-star for the Bulls.
And not be playing for the Bulls.
And yes, that's right. I shouldn't even say for the Bulls. He'll probably be an all-star for blank team that trades for needing a center, right?
Yeah, like
he's gonna end up on the Suns, and like Nurkic is gonna be like 20 and 18 on the Bulls because
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Towns, Vucevic, great. Bam, $7,500. Fine. You want to get there. I like Miles Turner a lot tonight against Goga. I think that's just not a spot Goga can defend well. I don't think Wade Turner's athletic. They'll get to Jalen Durant.
Yes.
You and I were like, oh my God, we have Durant versus Charlotte, and they got nobody to play against him. Talk about fouls. This guy's fouled out of a game this year in 11 minutes. So we know there's some concern there. He played 24 minutes against LA, had 5 fouls in that game. Back-to-back double-doubles. He had 17 rebounds against Brooklyn in that full game, 13-17. A couple games with 3 blocks already on the year. A couple games of double-doubles already on the year. Super talented. Bingo matchup. How do we get to him?
I mean, I don't know. He's obviously not like highly rostered at all, 10%. Anytime he's been extended, he puts up massive numbers.
Yep.
There's obviously elite spend-ups on the slate. There's also things that have opened up in the value tier, most notably Daniel Gafford, who just has Dwight Powell as his backup and nobody else. Yep. Not that Gafford's been great this year, but he has been good per minute. And you would think, as we saw last year, him getting extended makes a lot of sense at 40, like with just their depth. So like, that's the reason I would say that we're not getting to Duren. But like, if you guaranteed me, John, that Jalen Duren plays 30 minutes tonight, I would have a hard time not playing. If you could guarantee me him playing 30 minutes, I would have a really hard time not playing him because he's only not smashed this price like basically once this year.
Yeah.
And he obviously doesn't seemingly have the minutes ceiling that he had last year. And I do think that has to do with Beef Stew moving back into that like primary backup center role where they're just like not playing Stewart anywhere else but backup center. I do like 5,900 for Duren. It's just one of those things. Do you have to, one, avoid the top centers, two, avoid the value centers, or three, play two centers. And there we are, like, obviously kind of hinders your positional build if you're playing double center. So, there's three things that work against him, but the one thing that is greatly in his favor is that he's 10% in a smash spot. So, if you like the 10% Jalen Duren in a smash spot, I completely understand it. I personally, once Derek Lively was downgraded to doubtful, pivoted to a higher owned Daniel Gafford, and I understand that may not work out in my favor. But
I mean, Gafford's put up some good numbers. It's just obviously a much tougher matchup for him on the defensive end against
for sure. He is also very capable of handling that matchup or a tough matchup because he's a good shot blocker, right? So it just is. It's one of the situations where, they're very shorthanded in the front court, and he has a really high. I mean, dude, he's averaging 21 fantasy points per game in 18 minutes.
Agreed. Right around him, Zach Edey. Edey coming off the best game of his pro career, 25, 12, 1, and 4. I would have a lot more interest in Zach Edey tonight if Anthony Davis doesn't play. LaMelo Ball officially in, by the way.
In. Good. I mean, honestly, I like that better because it just makes me not have to like overthink if Trey Mann doesn't start, if I have to play Trey Mann, Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. We talked about it with like Jakob Poeltl, like being up in that matchup, and he didn't get in foul trouble. He went for like 50 fantasy points, and you're like, yeah, I mean, if the Zach Edey from the last couple of games shows up at this price, he's too cheap. Yeah. But if he gets in foul trouble, he might play 14, 15 minutes, and then you're drawing dead because there's Daniel Gafford $100 more.
Yeah,
Fields getting
a lot more ownership.
Yeah. So, and then we still don't know what Boston's going to do at center. So there's that just kind of looming as well. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like they would go to Keita, given the matchup. I think against with the way the bigs play, but
we had no clue that was coming last game. They had Cornette was amazing the game before, and then they're just like, you know what? They think we're starting Cornette, so let's change it up. And that's
again, if they're looking at it as Charlotte playing more of a spread, a rangy center, Cornette, and then they get Capella, more stay-at-home center. You get Keita, they got Trace Jackson Davis and Draymond down there, so maybe they feel better about Keita in that matchup versus Cornette. But we don't know. Like you said, it is 7:30 the roster lock for that game, so maybe we'll get it before we close this slate at 7:00. But that's where we're at. Justin says, I like Najee, have him in 70%. I like Wiggins as well, sprinkled him in. So Aaron Wiggins or
definitely Aaron Wiggins, because he was asking about Najee versus Wiggins before.
Ooh, so. Brandon Podziemski ruled out tonight.
He was downgraded with the illness.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like more minutes for the aforementioned Andrew Wiggins, probably like Moody, but it's still like. So now they went from 11 to 10. Now they're playing 10 guys, 20 plus minutes. I mean, it's just
no minutes limit for Steph Curry tonight.
32. They're lying. It's 32.
Well,
he told us that.
Steve Kerr says there's no minutes restriction on Steph Curry.
I know, but he also that means 32 because that's what he told us. That mother flower.
He's never lied before.
Never lied.
All right. Where do we begin? Najee Marshall, right?
Najee Marshall. Also, to Van's point about Strother, he has gotten in some foul trouble earlier this year.
Yeah.
No doubting it. He's been in foul trouble, but so is Peyton Watson. So like it's just a leverage. It's literally just a leverage play.
Yep. Because Watson's going to start, and you just kind of hope that he gets in early foul trouble and Strother comes in and has a better day. There's less chance that Strother gets pulled in foul trouble as a bench guy than Watson as a starter. So, You got that going for it. Plus, without looking too much into box scores, who knows? Maybe those fouls came at the very end of games and didn't really matter as much.
Yep.
All right, Najee's in there. Are you doing Watson or Strother?
I mean, let's stick to our guns here. Let's pivot to Strother. Let's do the DraftKings Strother pivot because that's what we were pretty convicted on. Yeah, let's do that too. Yep, let's do that too. Saw it from a mile away.
Now what? 5K play?
Do you want to play Westbrook? Do you not want to play Westbrook?
I'm fine getting to Westbrook if you want.
I'm not for or against Russell Westbrook. I'm kind of like indifferent about it. I think he's fine. I think he's going to be really popular at $5,000. Just like OG is going to be really popular at $5,000 if we wanted to just be like chalk donkeys and just play all the chalk.
Let's see. 5K, 52.
Yeah, I was going to say you have all the flexibility in the world because you can play Najee at either spot.
How does that look?
It looks tasty.
All right, we assume Eamon Thompson's the guy, right?
I mean, I assume it if we get the Dylan Brooks news that Eamon Thompson's the guy.
51. Not really much of a difference there. Mo Wagner. Goga. We did have a question of interest in Goga. Goga is starting.
Yeah, Goga's fine. Goga's solid.
If we got the Kada news, which would be cool.
Goga's a great pivot, I think, right? Off of Gafford. Because Field's getting to Gafford. $300 more, had 32 fantasy points last game. It's a good pivot.
It's not really a great 65. Where are we? As a forward, the Strother has guard though eligibility, right?
It does.
So we can pivot that away. Forward. Shooting guard at 65. Ivy.
Yep. Love when the plan comes together.
Assuming Kada is a starting center. If not, we have to move things back around. But Luka, Ivy, Marshall, Anunoby, Jokic, Westbrook, Strother, and Kada. You're looking at a lineup that has two guys that can go for 70. So there's 140 points right there in Luka and Jokic. Sergeant Scribe is going to be the build here, ladies and gentlemen, tonight. It's just the way it's going to go and all the value that's on the board. You decide how you want to go about it, but that's mostly what you're going to be seeing, I think, in a lot of lineups here. So that's where we're at. If you have any questions, you know where to find us on X. Get in the Fantasy Alarm Discord if you're not yet a member of the Fantasy Alarm family. We got the 7-day free trial going on. You can scan that QR code right there or go to fantasyalarm.com/win. Use promo code Let's Go. That first month after your 7-day free trial, just $19.98. You get access to everything on site, not just NBA DFS content, but NFL DFS as well, NHL, MMA, big MMA card next weekend, UFC 309, John Jones, Stipe Miocic, heavyweight championship fight on the card. Bo Nickel out there looking to extend his undefeated streak. So pretty solid UFC card. This is the last weekend of NASCAR. We get PGA. So get it all for 7 days for free. Try us out and win with the family. Till then.